everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making another Valentine's Day card using the penguins. These are the WaddlePenguins2Stamp stamp set, and I went ahead and stamped them out, and now I'm coloring them up. Actually, this large penguin I don't even end up using on my card because it actually turned out to be too large. I only used the smaller penguins, which I already colored off screen, but I'm showing you how I color using this larger penguin. It was the same process for all of those penguins. I will link all of these colors in my blog, so if you're watching this on YouTube, if you go down to the description box, there will be a link to my blog. So if you're interested in finding out the names of the colors, they are the Copic markers and they will be listed in my blog. So this is actually the IceCreamTruck2Stamp stamp set, and I stamped that out. When I stamp my images, I stamp them out on the Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock because I do use the Copic or the Spectrum Noir markers to color, and you need to be coloring. When you're coloring those stamped images, you need to color on a special cardstock that's for alcohol markers. So what I've used is the Spectrum Noir alcohol marker, Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth paper for the alcohol markers, and I will put that in my blog as well. And you also need to stamp out with a special ink, so I will also link the ink that I used in my blog, and I believe that is also the Spectrum Noir Noir Black, and that is also for the alcohol marker coloring, because if you use any other type of ink, the ink will smear when you color with the alcohol markers. So I love pink, and you can see that I used some of the bright pinks for this card because it's Valentine's Day and you have to have pink, right? I'm also using the blue-green colors. I think that pink and the blue-green, I think that they look beautiful together, so that's what I chose here for the awning on the truck. And then when I do the wheels and the bottom part of that truck, I'm going to be using some grays. So again, all those colors will be linked in my blog. And I'm also, this card is actually going to be a Slimline card, and it's a thinner, more narrow card, and it can fit in a legal size envelope. And you've probably seen me do some tutorials. I've done a couple of those on my YouTube channel in the past, so this is going to be another one. And I just love the look of the Slimline card. So if I can create a scene on a card and put a lot of images, stamped images on it, it's probably going to be a Slimline card. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I did do some ink blending with, and you'll see some of the background that I'm going to be using, but I did do some ink blending, and unfortunately I don't know what happened to that video. I had put it somewhere, I don't know what I did with it, so you're not going to be able to see me ink blend the background for the Slimline card, unfortunately. But we'll talk about more of that in just a moment when you can see the ink blended background when it comes up. But these cupcakes are also part of the IceCreamTruck2Stamp stamp set. I stamped out a whole bunch, but obviously I'm not going to use that many. I like to stamp out extra in case I make a mistake. So I think I only used like 4 in my card, but I did do some extra. And then the little coffee cup, that also is from the IceCreamTruck2Stamp. I love that IceCreamTruck2Stamp stamp set. It came out last year around Valentine's Day, and I just love it. So here I'm using the corresponding dies, and I am just using the shadow layer, and I'm going to die cut those out. I always like to make sure that I do put washi tape on my dies before if it's a colored image, if it's an image that I've colored, I want to make sure that the washi tape is attached to those dies onto the cardstock, because once I run it through my die cut machine, there's chance of it moving, and if it's moved after I've spent all that time coloring it, I'm not going to be happy. So I always, do the washi tape. So here I'm just doing the corresponding dies, attaching them to the penguins, and I will die cut those out. And there they are. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Misty. Now one of the sentiment stamps in this ice cream truck set is a Happy Valentine's Day, so I really love that. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Misty, and I'm using my Misty because if I make a mistake and it doesn't stamp all the way out on this colored image I've already done, I could stamp it again. Luckily, it only took one shot and it stamped smoothly. This border die is from the Borders set from Stamps of Life, and I am just here going to die cut a border. Actually, I'm going to end up die cutting 2 borders out of some powdered sugar cardstock. It's going to just resemble some snow because penguins, you know, they have to have snow. So it's not Christmassy, but it's still winter. I know some people relate snow to Christmas, but it's still a winter scene in many parts of the country. It still is winter, except for in Florida where I am. It's not winter. I mean, technically it is winter, but many days it's hot in February. So yeah, so I'm going to use this border die and I'm just gluing it down. Now obviously on this slimline card layer it's not going to fit all the way across, so I had to cut 2, and I'm just going to end up cutting off the excess. Now you can see the background that I did. I ink blended that with some Stamps of Life color box inks, and I started at the bottom with bubblegum, and then I went to the candy ink, and then the guava is at the top. So I went from light to dark. And if you've seen some of my previous videos where I've done ink blending on these slimline cards, it's the same process. So I just take my blending brush and just ink blend from light to dark until it looks nice and smooth. And I don't know what happened to that video, but I can't find it, so unfortunately you're not going to be able to see that. I do take my craft knife and I cut out this window of this ice cream truck because I think it would be so adorable to have one of the penguins look like he's driving the truck. So I'm cutting that window out, and I'm going to attach my little penguin right behind that window. So I'm positioning the penguin where I want him to be, and then I'm just going to put some tape to hold him in place. This is just some double-sided adhesive that I'm just putting on the back, and then I could just trim off his hand so that it's not overextending beyond the truck. Now this slimline card layer, it was cut out of the Bristol Smooth cardstock, and it measures 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. And I find that the Bristol Smooth cardstock is much easier for ink blending. Just the inks, they just look so much better on the cardstock, so much smoother. So that's what I use. Now I'm taking this penguin and I'm putting him over top of that line where those 2 hillsides separated, just to cover that line up. And then I'm going to add some adhesive. It's the foam tape, the double-sided adhesive foam tape to the back of the ice cream truck. And I will add that to my card layer. Next, I'm going to position my penguins where I want them to go on my card layer. And I'm also going to be using a cloud die, and the cloud die, it's a much smaller cloud die. I was going to use the one from the card kit, but it was too big, the one that came out in January, but it was too big, so I went and found another cloud. This one actually came with the 5x7 shadow box. It was one of the dies that are included, and I cut out a few of the clouds out of the Me and You collection pattern paper, and I picked a white background with pink hearts. I thought that was cute for the clouds, so I'm going to use those. So I'm adhering my penguin there, the one up at the top, with some foam tape, and then the others I'll just adhere flat with some glue. And I put the foam tape on that first penguin just because he's kind of separated between 2 pieces of cardstock, so there was some height difference there. Now I am going to attach, some of the clouds, a couple of them off the layer, and I'll just trim off the excess. 2 are applied flat using glue, and then the middle one is going to have some foam tape just to add some dimension so that it's in front of those other 2 clouds that are in the background. So next I'm just going to trim off the excess clouds just using a scissor. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my cupcakes and I'm going to add them to my ice cream truck. I'm going to put 2 on the outside and then the coffee cup in the middle and just adhere those with some liquid glue. And I'm also going to put some cupcakes, I should say a cupcake in one of the penguins' hands, and I'm going to add one of the coffee cups in a penguin's hand. So I thought that would add a little bit more cuteness to this card. And I'm going to add the cupcake to this other little penguin. And I'm going to add another cloud. I decided that it needed some more clouds up there at the top, so I put another cloud in the top left-hand corner. I'll cut the excess off of that, and then I put another cloud kind of towards the middle. I just thought that there was too much empty space up there, so I figured I would go ahead and add a couple more. Next, I add this entire layer onto a card base. It's a powdered sugar card base, and it's 7 by 8.5 is what I cut the card stock down to, and then I scored it at 3.5. So scored it at 3.5 down the middle, fold it, and then put the card layer on top of that. And then after I did that, I thought it was going to be done, but I decided no, it had too many empty spots on there. So I decided to take the Minis for Circles stamp set, and it had a couple of these sentiments on there. It had a Be Mine, which I stamped out and cut down, and it also had the Hugs and Kisses one. So I just stamped those out, cut them down, and just glued them on, just like the penguins are kind of talking to each other. I thought that was cute, and it just added a little bit more cuteness, I think, to this card. So if you like this tutorial, go ahead and click the like button, and be sure to subscribe for more card making inspiration. Have a great day. Bye-bye.